Consciousness Only. By Xian Sang. The 30 Verses on Consciousness Only by Vasubandhu. The treatise in 20 verses, on Consciousness Only by Vasubandhu. Translated from the Chinese of Xian Sang Francis H. Cook. First printing, 1999 Numata Center for Buddhist Translation and Research. Chapter 4. Manas. Having thus explained the characteristics of the first transforming consciousness, what are the characteristics of the second transforming consciousness? NEX, the second transforming consciousness, this consciousness is called manas. It evolves supported by that, alaya, and with that as its object, and has the nature and character of thinking. It is always accompanied by 4 passions, delusion about self, view of self, self-conceit, and self-love, along with others such as contact. It is defiled and morally neutral and bound by the place of birth. In the arhat, the samadhi of cessation, and the supramundane path, it does not exist.
Following the discussion of the first transforming consciousness, consciousness as retribution, it is necessary to explain the characteristics of the transforming consciousness that is thinking, manas. This consciousness is given the special name of mmanas in holy teachings because it surpasses all other forms of consciousness in constantly thinking. How does its name differ from that of the sixth, mental consciousness? Its name, manas consciousness, is a Sanskrit compound named karma-dharaya, like the compound Galayavijiana, consciousness that is Alaya, because the consciousness is the Alaya. The name of the other, mano-vijnana, is a tatpurusa, compound, similar to the term consciousness of the I, because the consciousness is not the same as the manas, but means that manas consciousness. Holy teachings, fearful of confusing manas with the other, mano-vijrana, refer to the seventh consciousness simply as manas. It is also called manas in order to distinguish it from mind, that is Alaya consciousness, and the first 6 consciousnesses, because it is weaker than those in its power to accumulate seeds and discriminate. It is only named manas out of a need to show that it is the immediate support of mental consciousness.
It evolves supported by that indicates its support. Tar refers to the preceding transforming consciousness, i.e., Alaya, because the holy teachings say that this consciousness is supported by the store consciousness. There is an interpretation, by Nanda, that this manas has the seeds of the other, store consciousness, as its support, not the actual consciousness, because it is not discontinuous and does not require a simultaneous support in an actual consciousness to be born. There is another interpretation, by Dharmapala, that it is supported by both the actual, 8th, consciousness and by its seeds, because even though it is not discontinuous, it does evolve easily and is referred to as an evolving consciousness, and it is born through the simultaneous support of the actual consciousness. Evolves refers to perpetual movement and indicates that this consciousness is perpetually supported by that, Alaya, consciousness, because it grasps it as its object.
1. Meaning of support. Mind and its activities have supports, and these are, in general, of 3 kinds. The first is support in the form of a condition as cause, which consists of its own seeds. All conditioned dharmas depend on this support, because they cannot occur in the absence of their own condition as cause. The second is support in the form of a dominant condition, consisting of the 6 internal sense bases, ayatana. All mind and mental activities depend on this support, because in the absence of simultaneous organs they do not evolve. The third is support in the form of a similar and immediately antecedent condition, samanantara-pratyaya, which refers to the extinct prior moment of manas. Mind and its activities depend on this support, because they do not appear apart from the organ that opens up and guides. Only mind and its activities, and no other dharma, have these 3 kinds of supports and are called having a support.
2. Support as causal condition. As for the first support, the seeds, it is said that the seeds must have already perished before the present result is born, because the Abhidhammasamukaya speaks of already born without seeds, and because seeds do not exist simultaneously with the sprouts, etc. There is an opinion, by Dharmapala, that this does not prove the point, because the above text says that the support attracts and engenders subsequent seeds. Also, the point that seeds produce sprouts is not an ultimate truth. That the sprout appears when a seed has perished is not exhaustively demonstrated, and we have the example of the flame and the torch being simultaneous causes for each other.
However, there is no simultaneity of cause and effect among seeds of the same species, but seeds and actual dharmas do generate each other and unquestionably exist simultaneously. Therefore, as for the meaning of causal condition, the Yogacara Bhimi Sastra says, impermanent dharmas are causes of things of another nature and are causes of a subsequent moment of their own nature. Own nature shows that the prior seeds are causes for subsequent seeds of like kind, while the words another nature means that seeds and actual dharmas act as mutual causes.
The Mahayana Samgraha says, the store consciousness and impure dharmas act as causal conditions for each other, just as bundles of reeds, supporting each other, exist simultaneously. It also says, the seeds and their results must exist simultaneously, therefore seeds as supports are definitely not sequential. Even supposing that some sources say that there is a sequence in seeds and their results, you must realize that these sources are concessional. Thus each of the 8 forms of consciousness and their activities have specific seeds as support.
3. Support as simultaneous condition. Next is the simultaneous support, Sahabhidraya. Nanda says that mind, manas, is the support of the 5 consciousnesses such as visual consciousness, because they must have it as a support when they are present. Organs such as the eye are not separate, simultaneous supports for the 5 consciousnesses because the 5 organs are seeds. A passage from Vasubandhu's 20 verses says, consciousness is born of its own seeds and evolves appearing as an external realm of objects. To establish the distinction of internal and external sense bases, the Buddha has said that there are 10.
The verse means that because the world-honored one is establishing the 12 sense bases, ayatana, he speaks of the seeds of the 5, material, forms of consciousness as being the visual organ, etc., and the perceived aspect of these 5 forms of consciousness as being material objects, etc., and therefore the visual organs, etc., are seeds of the 5 forms of consciousness. Dignaga's Alambana Pariksa says, energies of form in consciousness are called the 5 organs, energies and objective form have been mutual causes from beginningless time.
This verse means that the seeds in consciousness as retribution, that are able, as eyes, etc., to generate the consciousness of form, are referred to as energies of form. These are called the 5 organs, and there are no separate eyes, etc., apart from them. The seeds in consciousness of form constantly act as causes for each other, because the seeds and the perfuming consciousness alternate as causes. The 7th and 8th consciousnesses do not have this special support, because, perpetually evolving in a series, their own power is superior. The 6th, mental consciousness, has a special support, because it requires the support of mind, manas, in order to appear.